Hello, this is my pitch for Salem. This is a turn-based roguelite where players can risk everything for more rewards. The theme of the game is loosely based on the Salem witch trials, where the player assumes the role of a member of Covenant whose leader has been captured. The player's goal is to infiltrate the kidnapper's dungeon and rescue the leader. The player will navigate 5 maze-like levels of a dungeon while killing enemies, avoiding traps, and finding secret areas to collect currency and upgrade materials that are used to strengthen themselves by purchasing or upgrading spells and attributes. Before delving into the dungeon, players will customize their spell loadout with 4 spells of their choosing. Players can send their pet back to town at any time throughout the dungeon to save currency they have, but each monster left alive lowers the chance of success for the pet and can lead to the player losing everything. The longer the player goes without sending back their pet, the more currency and materials they will find, so players need to push themselves to their limit to maximize profit. Upon death, the player's pet will automatically return to town with half the goods the player has, and if the pet is not with the player, everything will be lost. Each level of the dungeon will be randomly selected upon entrance by the player from one of the 15 pre-made dungeons. The maze-like floors should take a player between 10 to 15 minutes to complete. Each layout will contain hidden areas and special monsters for the player to move through on their search for the leader. Each turn, players can use 2 actions. The actions are movement, attacking, or sending their pet back to the home hub. Using these actions, players will face more than 15 enemies, 5 different mini-bosses, and 2 main bosses. Players must utilize their selected spells to kill these enemies. Players must use their actions wisely to position themselves in the best place to attack and kill monsters, as well as avoid taking damage from enemies and traps. Each monster that is killed will drop currency or upgrade materials the player can upgrade their arsenal with. There are 4 spell elements, each with 2 spell types for the player to use. Each spell has specific attributes that are upgraded with materials found throughout the dungeon. Some enemies have weaknesses and resistances to specific spell types, so the player needs to carefully select their spell loadout before entering the dungeon. Throughout the dungeon, players will find cracked walls and locked doors. Doors need to be opened with a switch that is located somewhere within the level, and cracked walls can be busted open with any projectile spell. These hidden areas contain treasures and currency and upgrade materials the players need to collect. Players need to move as far as they can through the dungeon to be able to send as much money and materials back to their hub in order to strengthen themselves to take on the later levels of the dungeon. The lower levels of the dungeon contain stronger enemies, so only skilled players will be able to move deeper into the dungeons without upgrading themselves. While in their mission, players will find 3 NPCs in the dungeon that can be rescued and sent to the hub to aid the player in purchasing new spells or upgrades. Saving these NPCs will drastically improve the player's ability to successfully save the leader of the Covenant. The inspirations for the game come from many aspects of many games. The turn-based strategy from the Disgaea series, the pattern-based movement and upgrade paths from Rogue Legacy, the level layouts and secrets from The Binding of Isaac. And the largest inspiration is a game called Dib's Dilemma by Random Thought, which is a tile-based spellcasting game where players kill enemies to gain materials to upgrade spells. Having a female protagonist opened up the game to a wider audience, including females. Being able to play as a girl character aids in the immersion females could get from the game. The time restraint of the game would be problematic, but can be alleviated in many ways. Having a large amount of designed levels may be time-consuming, but will add replay value to the game, as players will not always see the same things. The amount of enemies, while large, is manageable with the use of palette swaps and changing behaviors from the enemies. One of the other risks is the genre causing many replays of the game, which could be tedious to some players. Thank you for listening to my pitch for Salem.